In the Truck Series, there's been a rumor, Landon. This centers around your world. This rumor.
Let's hear it.
So the rumor has been that the Dodge is coming back to the Truck Series with the Ram. I did drive the last factory Dodge back in 2012, by the way, and when I was at Brad Keselowski, or maybe that was 2011. 2012. We were still Dodge.
But have you driven a zombie Dodge?
I haven't. Have you?
Yeah, I've driven a zombie Dodge. I drove a zombie Dodge for Carl Long.
The
old
at the
Roval
Challengers.
Yep.
Nice. I might have driven the car that you drove at some point. If it was
I think everybody drove the car that I drove.
No, but I drove it when it was in its first life, not its used car life. Afterwards, it's post.
I had to qualify
owners, beat up Carfax, mileage turn back, that sort of thing.
I had to qualify in at the Roval in this car, and I'm pretty sure a good 3 weeks later it was at Homestead with Timmy Hill driving.
I did that with a Bica. They ran some road course race with the car, finished well, I think, or whatever. And then they were like, "Oh, that's the car you're racing at Darlington back in 2015." And I was like, "Okay."
So what is this leaked? What is this leaked screenshot?
So this comes from a dealership that basically got this information and put this out there.
The people,
doxed, and it says back to the NASCAR Truck Series. So some Dodge dealership sort of leaked this apparently. So that's why it's in your world. That'd be cool. Another manufacturer to come in. Easy in the Truck Series. They all run a spec motor. So all they got to do is have a body, basically. And this does lead to the NASCAR Cup Series potentially. I've seen in 2028 was the rumor. And one big piece of that is this idea of torque sensors. So one of the biggest limiting factors, I believe, for new manufacturers to enter the NASCAR Cup Series, aside from the massive financial cost to enter the series, has been the idea of these, sort of antiquated V8 motors, right? And what has occurred in IMSA, which is a NASCAR-owned property, in the GT class, is that starting this year, we run torque sensors in those cars. So that's, in years past, they did what was called balance of performance, where they'd take a Lamborghini with a V10 engine and a Porsche with a flat six and a Corvette with a V8 and a Aston Martin with a V8 or a V6 twin turbo, and they would do balance of performance between weight, restrictors, and all these metrics to come to try and make the cars equal. Starting this year, they still have a little bit of the weight and that sort of stuff in balance performance, but the big thing is they now use torque sensors, and this is something that is undoubtedly coming to the NASCAR Cup Series eventually, because it can similarly go on the transaxle that they have in a NASCAR Cup car now. And what that does is basically the manufacturer provides a torque curve and a power curve that is in line with what the series wants, right? And what they say you can have. And then the sensor basically tracks the torque and the power as you go through the power band of the engine. And as long as you stay below that curve, you are in legal, right? So I know this is highly technical, but the reason I'm bringing this up in relation to Dodge is some of the idea that a new manufacturer could come in is with torque sensors in the, let's say, the event that a new manufacturer comes in and they want to run a V6 twin turbo. I'm not saying this is where it's going, but I'm just saying this could be a possibility. You would say, okay, well, here's the torque curve of a current motor in a power curve in the NASCAR Cup Series, match that and stay below it. And we'll be watching all the time. And if you ever go above it, there'll be a notification to NASCAR or whoever, the sanction body is, that car has gone above its allotted power or torque curve. And so this is being used in IMSA. So I ran it, dealt with it, the Rolex 24, dealing with it down at Sebring. It is interesting with the torque sensors, how they get affected by bumps. They get affected by wheel spin. So if you have a ton of wheel spin off a corner, the torque, the curve will go kind of wonky. If you run over a bump, it sort of says you're using more than you are, sort of thing. So there is some really sort of
cleansing of the data.
Yeah, there's cleansing of the data, that sort of thing. And it's tough, but it's shown, if you looked at Rolex, there was like 5 or 6 manufacturers all within a couple tenths of each other. And it'll be the same at Sebring because it makes it far more equal, and you don't have all the games in BOP where people are trying to slow down on purpose and that sort of stuff. So the reason that's why I brought up around Dodge is that this could open up the idea of new manufacturers coming in where they don't have to build a V8 motor that they're 30 years behind. They could use something else and just match it on power and torque curves with a torque sensor.
That would be cool, especially if it ended up producing, manufacturers had different types of engines that sounded different and were obviously different, that
I'd love it.
performed similar on an equal playing field. My heart still wants to see manufacturers just be allowed to bring whatever power plant they want, electric, hybrid, diesel, whatever, and then just make them pay for it. But they have to pay for it for all the teams. Sort of, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but like I just have always wished that, or always wondered what the sport would look like if the manufacturer supplied the engines, right? And they could build whatever they want, no rules, 1,000 horsepower, doesn't matter because the manufacturer's got to pay for it.
I like it. I would totally be down for that. And I think it's, F1, they do that where the customer cars are capped at a $20 million fee for motors and power plants. And that's, mostly manufacturers lose money on the customer cars, but they have to provide them because that's part of the rules. And they have to provide them for that
Then
cost.
you just have to sort of cap the manufacturers what they're allowed to spend so that you can still have competitiveness within manufacturers. Because Ram wouldn't be able to compete with Toyota. Well, yeah, I mean, Stellantis couldn't compete with Toyota necessarily, or Hyundai couldn't compete with Toyota. But anyways, I said we weren't going to get in the weeds on that. But that's my.
We're not going to go too deep.
I don't know how I feel about the torque sensors. It seems, I don't know. It seems a little.
As with any new tech,
sacrilegious.
There would be growing pains, and it's going to be interesting to see if it happens. But I can tell you it's being used in IMSA in a GT3 car, which uses a transaxle exactly like the NASCAR Cup Series car. So I would think it was used over in Europe last year in the World Endurance Championship. So it's kind of disseminating through the motorsport world as we speak. And it's probably the future for most series in allowing different power plants and having it balance out so that the competition is fair and equal wherever you're looking for, or most likely just the best show.